All right, welcome back. As promised, we're being joined by our State House insiders tonight, Antoine Seawright, Dave Wilson. Guys, thank you so very much for your time. Number of issues to jump in locally. The House Judiciary Committee panel today passing a proposal to expand liquor sales on Sunday. Right now, only restaurants, bars, and hotel lounges can actually sell the hard stuff, the liquor, on Sundays. This is just for 10 counties, including Lexington and Richland, if the local leaders approve. This thing got heated over there today.
It got heated, but the author of the bill, ironically, is a Republican, former judge from the upstate, Judge Cleary, who's a friend. And what I think the thinking behind the proposal is, let's go to where the hotbeds of tourism are in the state, and let's allow people who come to the state, who add to our tax rolls and put money into the local economy, let's give them options. Because when you travel outside of South Carolina to other tourism hotbeds, this option is readily available. And I think that's what the author is trying to be. Now, this is just one step in the political process.
Right.
It passed the committee.
It passed the committee, and it's got to go through the entire process. There's going to be a lot of up and down. You're going to have some core conservative groups that are going to be absolutely against this. You've got to have some pro-capitalism groups who are simply saying, listen, let business operate in the free market here. Where it's going to come to the rubber hitting the road is if it actually does get passed, it's then got to hit in all 10 counties, and that then becomes that local option issue that's now going to have to be dealt with.
A few other measures to talk about tonight. Ending child marriages in South Carolina. The House and Senate signing off on this. Now the age to get married, 18. It's soon to be 18 in South Carolina, but 16 with parental consent. This really isn't a partisan issue, is it?
It should never be, and I'm not even sure why we have not addressed this issue before. It's almost like our minimally adequate education standard we have in the state. We have things on the books that have been just passed along generation to generation, year after year, and whoever shed light on this issue and brought attention to it, I'm thankful. I think it was my friend Katrina Shealy, Republican from Lexington. Here I am, a Democrat from Richland, and I think we actually agree on this issue.
You actually, yeah. I mean, listen, I've got kids at home. You all know where I'm standing on this one. This is a place where you've got to have some level of maturity, and if you ask sociologists and you ask school counselors and things like that, let's be honest, the maturity level of 16-year-olds is a whole lot different than it was probably when that law got passed 50, 60, 70 years ago.
Well, what's so scary about that is what other laws may be on the books that may be living in, 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 years ago.
Right, exactly.
And so that's why it's so important that, when people are watching this show or people who are just involved in the process find these things out, let's shed light on them, because no one will know until there's been light shined on the issue.
Right. Another issue talked about this week, cell phones while driving in South Carolina. If you hold the cell phone, you can already be fined if they catch you doing this. This would increase the fines, I believe, up to $200 or more.
This is a bill that was put out by Representative Bill Taylor out of Aiken. He has a huge proponent of that kind of limitation, which is somewhat ironic because he tends to lean more on the extreme conservative side, but there are issues that are going on. When you're texting and you're driving, when you're driving down the road, set the phone down for right now. But to put a law into place that actually sets that out as a statute in the state of South Carolina is going to be a little bit difficult to get all the way through. You have certain municipalities that have done that. Greenville, the city of Greenville has done that. Some others have done so.
Columbia.
And that's a place where you're going to have a lot of argument going back and forth as to whether that will actually get through.
This, too, is not a partisan issue. I commend my friend, Senator Vincent Shaheen, because it was a couple of years ago he passed the no texting while driving law. I think this essentially takes the device out of your hand. Handheld device out of your hand, which it's kind of complicated, because if you're like me, use your iPod, use your phone sometimes for music and other things, and so it makes it a little complicated. Then it's up to officer discretion of how they actually implement.
And technology's changing. Technology, we couldn't tell our phones 3 or 4 years ago, hey, listen, play this song. And that is changing more and more. We're going to see that happening, and that's a place where I think they're going to ask for that change.
All right, we have a couple of minutes left to discuss one national issue today. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said she supports some sort of barrier along the southern border, but not any funding for a border wall. Does the president now declare a national emergency and proceed that way?
Democrats and Republicans have warned the president against using this as a national emergency. I think there's been 9 times in our country's history where that's been used, and one of those incidents was 9/11. I mean, there have been some real serious issues where that's been used. It sets a dangerous precedent, but I say to the president and his party, make our day, because there will be a day in which Democrats will occupy the White House. So if you want to say climate change and gun violence and some of the things that we know are true national emergencies, if you want to go down that road, full steam ahead, Mr. President.
I think the thing, it goes back to what we have talked about week after week after week. It is time to stop playing around. It is, you know, whether he tweeted out today, whether we call them walls or the wall, it really doesn't matter. We've got to do something to deal with security. And that's, we're coming to that point, and it's where I think the White House is kind of simmering down somewhat to a reality of how are we going to work to get certain things passed, which I know is to the joy of my partner over here hearing me say that. But there comes a point in time where you have to sit there and go, what are we going to actually do to make things work? That's the important part, JR.
Both sides agree on border security, but let me tell you where the rubber met the road. It's what I said on this program to Dave a couple weeks ago. When 2020 Republicans are starting to feel the heat about re-election, and they were blamed for the government shutdown. So now we have a government open for at least a few days, and I think we'll get there.
All right. Antoine C. Wright, Dave Wilson, our State House insiders, thank you so very much for your time. And stay with us when we come back. South Carolina's weatherman Jim Gandy has a check on the forecast.